What's up, y'all? LTJ Reads here. This is Throwing Light. And if you're not throwing light, guess what? You're not acting right. Tonight, I've got another IML judge on here. We're getting close to IML, so I feel like I might give him the previews for the event this year. But I've met a lot of people that just happen to be IML judges and involved with IML. So, but it's pretty relevant for me to have a lot of IML content right now. But I have Dr. Carlton Thomas on here. I had the opportunity of actually meeting Dr. Carlton Thomas at Awesome Key Weekend. I think I might have asked you on the show before then. I think.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. But
yeah,
getting to be around you in person was a treat. So I look
yeah,
forward to seeing more of you.
yeah.
We're gonna, save all that IMO talk. We want to talk about Dr. Carlton right now.
Okay.
Oh, your career and leather kind of aligned perfectly, right?
Well, yeah, it was kind of unexpected. I'm a gastroenterologist. I do butts and guts. My first practice was in Palm Springs, very gay. Spent a lot of time trying to focus on queer health to try to make sure that my gay guys got what they needed. So I did a lot of studying on queer health, even though I was just a butt doctor. And gained a passion for it. I moved to San Diego 15 years ago, and my kids were toddlers back then. And I think my son one day said, "Daddy, can we go out and throw baseball?" And I said, "No, son, it's 126 degrees outside. We might spontaneously combust."
Mhm.
We moved to San Diego where they could have a better life, because I realized there's no place for kids. And boy, San Diego's got everything for a kid. I mean, it's world famous zoo. It's got the beach. It's got, these world class high schools and everything else. So it was a really good move. My practice was mostly immigrants. I speak a lot of Spanish, and most of my patients are Hispanic immigrants. But I did carve out about 15% of my practice into a gay doctor's office in downtown San Diego, where I got to kind of keep doing that queer health kind of thing. Um, when the pandemic hit, my kids were on TikTok a lot, and I was absolutely about to lose my mind, thinking I was going to die at work because it was scary as hell at that point. And I said, what are you kids looking at? And they're like, oh, we're looking at TikTok. And I'm like, well, you spend an awful lot of time on TikTok. Let me look at it and see what's going on because it was fun. So I went on there, and I had looked down and looked back up 4 hours later and realized I had been on it for 4 hours and didn't even know it. And it had learned within like 15 minutes that I liked that I was gay and that I like hairy guys and that I like brown guys really fast. So she knows. She knows.
You just
So,
got me, so I'm just kind of like, oh.
so anyway,
Oh,
so I, I was scrolling and kind of a lurker for a while, and then I said, what can I talk about that other people don't talk about on TikTok? So I'm like, well, I know about butt stuff. And I'm gay. I mean, I know my way around a butt professionally and personally. So why don't I talk about butt stuff? So I tried to figure out a creative way to talk about anal sex on TikTok in a very coded language because you can't get away with a whole lot of stuff on there. Probably a little bit more now than you used to could, but you had to dance around a lot of words and stuff so that you didn't get in trouble. And so I made this anal sex 1 and 2 video about how to prepare and how to relax for anal sex. And my first videos, looking back on them, were terrible. I was in a white coat. I was holding the camera, and my camera was shaking a little bit. Um, but I made the videos, and the first thing that popped up on there was this lady who said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you made an anal sex video on a children's app. You should be ashamed of yourself." And I was like, "Oh shit, I can either take this down now and forget about this whole thing, or I can just block her and just see what happens." So I chose to block her, and I was thinking, if you can't control what your kids are doing, that's on you. This
but
is.
is TikTok for kids? Is that the sort? I don't use
Oh,
TikTok.
it's not for kids. It's for everybody, but a lot of kids are on it.
Well, I
So
recently deleted mine when they were talking about getting rid of it. Then I can't get it back. So
yeah. So
that's
anyway,
what I I have too many apps. TikTok. Well, maybe I can learn from you.
well, no, that's how I started. So I started on TikTok, and I turned off my phone that night, and I turned it back on the next day, and I had like 40,000 new followers in one night, all from those videos. And it turned out 75% of them were women. Like women want to know about anal sex. They have anal sex too. And I thought I was kind of aiming everything at gay guys, right? But no, everybody's got a butt, and why not talk about it and teach about it and teach people what they need to know. So I kept doing that kind of stuff and kind of blew up to the point where now I'm at like 270,000, but I haven't really put much time or energy into TikTok in quite a while because I knew it was kind of like iffy as to whether or not it was going to stay around. So I shifted a lot of my energy to Instagram about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and kind of shifted everything more towards queer health to teach the pillars of sexual health and how to hoe responsibly, but still have fun, how to prepare for anal sex, how to, teach queer sex ed. Like we never got sex ed in high school here, let alone queer sex ed. So I wanted to teach sex education so people know how to do it right so they don't hurt themselves and they can enjoy it. And the platform started really growing and growing and growing. And then when monkeypox, or mpox now, hit back in 2022, I had this pre-built platform to talk about sexual health and had this amazing, I had this amazing like following already. So when I started seeing monkeypox hit in Europe, and then it was at Darklands, which is all those same people were about to come to Chicago for IML. I was like, oh shit, this could spread. And I started talking about it and said, hey, everybody, watch out in Chicago, watch out in Chicago. This thing is happening, better be careful. And lo and behold, one of my friends who was a doctor in Chicago got monkeypox during that IML week in 2022. Not at IML, but just out in the bars. And he told his story on there, and I ran with his story about what it was like to have mpox and how bad it was and how much it hurt and all that kind of other stuff.
Well,
And I kind of became the go-to guy about monkeypox, how to, how people were dealing with it. I hooked up people with treatment all across the country. A lot of doctors in emergency rooms had no clue what they were talking about. They had no idea what this was. They thought it was all syphilis or gonorrhea or herpes or something, and they didn't really understand what was happening and how painful it was. So I got a lot of people educated. I got vaccination clinics set up. I think I listed about 10,000 vaccine clinics on my stories in the course of 3 or 4 months. And then I went on Dan Savage's show, Savage Love, and we basically said this is a sexually transmitted infection. And nobody wanted to say that because everybody was scared to say that because um, they didn't want to step on anybody's toes and claim that, men who have sex with men might be spreading this condition. I got a lot of negative feedback about it. A lot of people were like, "How dare you tell me not to have sex right now?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just saying just cool off and wait till you get vaccinated and maybe create a pod of people that you can have sex with without without so you can still keep the volume of sex, just a different number of people in there." And people really started listening. People started changing their behavior. People started getting vaccinated, and that infection spike went from 36,000 cases in the U.S. that year to just 300 cases the next year. So, I mean, damn, I got invited to the White House over
that's
this.
awesome. That's
So I was
awesome.
I was at the White House twice. I was put in the Out 100 and Queer Tea Pride 50, and I was the San Diego Hero of Pride. All this kind of crazy stuff. I never dreamed that I would have been at the White House, just simply because I started a TikTok 3 years ago, and it all led to this. So, so the platform continues to grow, and I've branched out now. I have my own podcast called But Honestly, where we talk about sex, socializing, love, and butt stuff. My partner D'Angelo is a self-described slut who has has done a lot of stuff, and he paints me as the guy who knows a lot of stuff. But I've done a lot of stuff too. I'm just like everybody else. The reason I have done so well over the past 12 years, 12 to 15 years, I've been on PrEP and I've, been a proponent of DoxyPep for a long time to prevent bacterial STIs and know how to have fun. And I wanted to spread that to other people. Hey, listen, you can have fun a lot of fun and protect yourself in ways that not necessarily that might not necessarily involve condom use, you know. So, because a lot of people aren't using them anymore, but here's some secrets of how to get around things. So, so yeah, so we've got this podcast going, and you know, I hooked up the way I got into leather. One of my early TikTok fans was Luis from Surratt.
Oh, that's my sister.
Yeah, and so the she was a big she was a big fan. He was a big fan and wanted me to come out to Austin to do their fifth anniversary party in their back parking lot of Surratt. And we did a butt stuff drag brunch.
What year was this?
This was the year before Austin Kink started, so probably what, 5 years ago?
2022? Wait,
2020,
I'm sorry, 2020,
2021, I think. Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic stopped, I think who got it in 2020?
Yeah, so they started Austin Kink in 2021. So we did 21, 22, 23, 24. No, no, they did it 22. So they started Austin Kink in 22 and we did the backyard thing in 21. So there's been four Austin Kink, so 22, 23, 24, 25. So yeah. So we did that in the backyard of his store and had a lot of people come. And the Bus Up Drag Brunch was fun and it was hysterical, but also educational. And I thought, hey, I'm gonna run with this kind of stuff because it's kind of fun. You know, I ended up touring around. I went to Orlando and did a talk. You know, I've been to all through Texas. And he said, hey, listen, I'm gonna do this butt stuff drag. He goes, I'm gonna do this Austin Kink weekend next year. Will you be one of the headliners? I'm like, sure, why not? So I came back the next year and was one of the headliners for Austin Kink, and I've been there every year since. So I've been, I think, about the only person who's been a big main stage presenter who's done it every year.
You know,
Um,
I don't. I've been to the past. How come we've not talked? Or because I competed in 2023 and I was.
well, when you're competing in 2023, you're so busy competing that you don't have your mind on anything else but competing.
That's true. That's true.
And then
And
and
last year
then
was my title year, so I was
and
occupied.
then you were busy last year.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you
that makes
know.
sense. That checks out.
And a
Mhm.
lot of people don't want to come to lectures when they go to those things. They want to go play, you know, and I get that. So,
Yeah, but
uh,
but it's so important. But the thing is that we're offering the exposure to these things. People
yeah,
come to your classes. There is a component. I mean, we have to be honest, like, a lot of the community wants to party and play and do all those things, but we have to keep doing these things and offering these resources to the community. And I think that there are a core part of us that are interested in trying to educate ourselves about so many
yeah,
things. So you're doing something very necessary, and if
yeah,
one person absorbs what you say and goes and tells three other people, you know what I'm saying,
yeah,
but you're making it fun.
yeah. I try to make it fun. I started off very, like scrubs and everything like that. And then I think it's gotten to the point where I teach a fisting class in Dallas twice a year
Do you
for rigor
fist?
events.
Do you fist?
And I think I taught this year in a jock strap. So, you know, my ability to kind of relax and enjoy my crowd and judge what I do based on what my crowd is has kind of evolved with time as well. So, I think this year I just was shirtless and wore like a leather vest for Austin Kink, whereas before I was all, buttoned up and, tight-assed. But I've learned to relax over time and realize what my target audience is.
Okay. But you would say you have a diverse target audience
I
now.
do, I do, I do. I mean, I teach fisting, but I also teach at Kink Weekends. But now I also teach queer sexual health online, and it's been pretty amazing. I've had people, online. I teach people around the world, and my DMs are always completely open for everybody to ask anything they want to at any time, free of charge. So I'll have people from around the world say, "Hey, I'm in so and so. I'm in Iran and I've got this infection and I don't know what to do. Or I'm in Saudi Arabia and if I go to the doctor here, I might get executed because I have a big sore on my butt that might be a sexually transmitted infection and gay sex is not allowed here."
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, so it's been wild to be a resource like that. And um,
People depend on you, dude.
They do. It's wild. And like every Sunday morning, I open up my DMs and there's some guy who had sex with somebody last night who didn't wear condoms and has no idea who the guy is, doesn't know what their HIV status, and they're panicked about what to do. And so I walk every single person with what to do to protect themselves the best from that point. So yeah, I'm kind of like and what's weird is it's not weird. I really love it. But there's this kind of parasocial relationship that develops online where you're kind of everybody's doctor and everybody knows who you are, but you don't really know who they are, maybe. And I think the first time it really hit me was when my husband and I went to Provincetown Bear Week in 2021, and we got off the ferry and we started walking down towards the main town after we got off the ferry. And it was the first time I'd ever been in public because of the pandemic. And it was all gay men, and bears at that, who were a big part of my target audience. And every 5 feet, people were stopping me to ask for pictures and, tell me hello and say they like my TikTok or whatever like that. And it's quite an adjustment for somebody who's not used to attention to suddenly get a lot of attention. And it was also kind of weird for in the relationship cycle because, here the first 5 or 6 people, my husband was like, "Oh, that's great, that's cool," and then after about the seventh or eighth one, he's like, "Okay, that's enough." I'm like, "No, no, no, you can't be like that. You have to realize these are the people who are going to buy my books or." Listen to my podcasts or come see me at a show. You have to treat everyone with respect, and that's one of the things I've been really careful to do. If somebody comes over to me and starts talking, I talk to them back. I ask them if they want a picture. I throw my arm around them. I give them a hug. I give them a kiss, whatever they want, to make them feel loved back because I really appreciate that these people have invested their time in me. So um, it's kind of cool.
I mean, it's cool to do things and make, because everybody has their opinion on social media and how
Yeah.
useful it is. This is definitely a way. This is like a positive way of using it.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
Um,
I mean, the way we came together basically as a community and mostly stopped the mpox epidemic in 2022 is a prime example of how social media can be used for positive change. So.
I wish that our community could learn from you and more could use the internet in a positive way, but
Yeah.
we do get a lot of complaints, but we don't have a human resources department.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
but look, I think it's amazing what you're doing. I'm excited to get to know you. I feel like I'm meeting a new friend that will be very useful in terms of empowering people and their sexual health. I mean, like, this is the deal, dude. You have my audience, my demographic is not just leather people. They're actually people that I've grown up with back at home. I actually have conservative people that watch the show
Yeah.
that probably didn't vote like we did either, but
Yeah.
they are interested in relating to me and what I have to offer. And
Sure.
I want you to just please explain to my
Hmm.
audience why it's important to know
Hmm.
sexual health, even in a relationship, even in a marriage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to sexuality, there's all kinds of relationships. Some people have monogamous relationships. Some people have open relationships where they can play either together or um, separately with other people. So some people get bored with the same, some straight people get bored with the same penis vaginal sex all the time. I point out that a man's prostate gland is their center of pleasure. And just because you have something put up your butt doesn't mean you're gay. Butt play doesn't have a sexuality. It doesn't have a femininity or dominant or masculinity thing or a dominant or subordinate thing. Everybody's got a butt and it's got a lot of nerves. And the prostate gland in particular, for those who've never had their prostate gland hit while they got a blowjob or got jerked off or something, you don't know what you're missing because the sensation and the pleasure from that is a million times more than just the other part alone. So,
I want I want more conservative people to empower themselves. And if
yeah,
you're comfortable in a relationship or a marriage, then there's nothing. You're already having sex with the person you want to be with. You should be able to. It's okay to try
explore.
things and to
Yes,
explore because
explore.
you got your partner, and so there shouldn't be any shame into wanting to.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, no one's judging what you do in bed. What you do in bed is between you and your husband or wife, and you know, after a certain amount of years, the same old thing gets boring. So rather than, you know, maybe cheating and getting what you really want on the side, why not open the door to exploration with your partner? You know, or if maybe you know maybe you choose to have an open relationship and explore new things. That takes a lot of communication, a lot of trust. But you know, my basics are basically teaching people how to relax and open up. Being a butt doctor myself, I teach people that the circle of anal muscle called the sphincter, has external skeletal muscle that kind of you can clench and release and clench and release. You have it, your brain can control that. And it's what kind of keeps things tight back there. But you also have an internal sphincter that's made out of smooth muscle that you can't control with your brain. So you have to actually apply lateral pressure to it. So if you gently stick your finger in about an inch and press over to the side and hold it at like 3 o'clock, and then down at 6 o'clock, up at 12 o'clock, over at 9 o'clock, and just kind of hold about 15 to 30 seconds, that muscle starts relaxing and opening up. So your finger is almost like a key to a lock. I call it the butt clock technique because I tell people 3, 6, 9, and 12, but you can also think of east, west, north, and south. Um, and just hold that pressure there. And it's one of the steps to help someone open up so that you can start being a little bit more aggressive about penetration. So, you know, lots of lubrication, lots of breathing. I often tell people who are going to receive anal sex to start on top so that they can control how fast and how deep something goes in them so they don't get hurt, because you tear that lining of the internal anal canal because from just ramming it in there, it's going to hurt like hell and it's going to put you out of commission for months, maybe even require surgery. So just by breathing and relaxing and letting that open up, starting on top, um, it's a world of difference. And I've had people from all over the world, men and women, say, "Oh my God, you revolutionized my sex life. You know, my husband and I love anal sex now, and we never did before, but this is really hot." And just technique helps me relax so that I can give him or her the pleasure that they want to get. Um, so those sorts of techniques I teach people about, you know, getting ready for anal sex. Anal sex, some people, a very small minority of people can just have anal sex without preparation and be fine. Um, Other people, it requires some preparation so that you kind of make room back there so that it doesn't get messy. So I tell people to, you know, high fiber diet with fiber supplements, plenty of hydration. Rinse out with a little tap water in like an enema bottle or a douche bulb until the water becomes clear, so that you have everything kind of cleaned out a little bit. You can test it a little bit with what I call the dipstick test technique, where you take a lubricated dildo and slide it in and pull it back out. And if there's mess on there, you know you got some more work to do. And if it's clear, you're ready to go. And don't overdo it with the fluid because you can make things messier and you can kind of flood out water during sex. And I have all these videos on my TikTok about, and I'm sorry, on my Instagram about how to do that properly, and the reasoning why. Um, and then when it comes to sexual health, you know, if you're in non-monogamous relationships, I meaning you're having sex with other people or multiple people, um, and you're HIV negative and you want to stay HIV negative, the best way to stay HIV negative is to go on PrEP, which is a daily pill to prevent HIV. You can even do it on demand, a 2-in-1 method, which I describe in my socials as well. Or there's even a new shot coming out now, or it's out now that's every 2 months, but there's one that's coming that's going to be every 6 to 12 months that is like 100% effective at preventing HIV, even if you don't use condoms. Um, so DoxyPep is a new arm of the sexual health wing as well, that you take 200 milligrams after a high risk exposure within 72 hours and you reduce your chlamydia and syphilis risk by 80%. Um, so these things are really big at helping prevent illness. And then also I tell people, hey, listen, you know, sexual health vaccines like hepatitis A and B, meningitis, HPV, monkeypox. Um, these things help prevent a lot of things. HPV in women and men prevents anal cancer, cervical cancer in women, throat cancer. Um, 90% of those kinds of cancers are squamous cell based and are HPV related. By just taking this vaccine against the cancer causing types of HPV, you can completely prevent those cancers, which is freaking amazing. Um, and then I talk about HIV and how just because someone's HIV positive does not mean that that automatically makes them a someone you don't want to have sex with or someone you don't want to ever.
Ignorant still about that. So that's surprising though, because we have all the resources and stuff in
Yeah.
place around us, but that's an access to resources
Well,
thing.
even in our community, a lot of people still get shamed or get
Yeah,
blocked
that's what I'm
um,
saying.
on
There's
Grinder or Scruff just because they're positive, which is ridiculous because of an HIV positive person who's undetectable and on medications cannot pass the virus through sex, scientifically proven.
yes, you know.
So, why miss out on your potential soulmate because they're HIV positive when it's
That's
like
what I
basically like
said.
diabetes these days?
That's how I thought about things. I mean, you got
Yeah.
if you really are open to love, then it's not, no,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I knew
But
when I was younger that that wouldn't be something that would prevent me from loving somebody.
well,
But I was
I
exposed to Pedro Zamora, and I
me
that
too. You and I are about the same age. I watched that show too, and that was really deeply affecting.
it changed. I didn't know that it helped me not be afraid as a kid.
Hmm.
But I realized as I got forward that that exposure to Pedro was something we've never had since then. I
Yeah.
mean, I dream of making the impact that Pedro made, but I am so grateful
Mm.
that MTV did that back then and
Oh
put
yeah, it's huge.
a
Yeah.
show, and I'm so glad I watched that
Yeah.
because it really did help me. It really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it was groundbreaking for sure. And I think back to other shows. Like, I mean, I grew up watching like Golden Girls, and Golden Girls was talking about HIV, and well before any other show was talking about it.
Degrassi,
Yeah,
Degrassi from the '80s was.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. Um,
yeah. So anyway, the awareness about HIV and how it's not a death sentence as long as you're taking your medications, you can be completely undetectable and live a normal life. Um, all those important sexual health things, how to get properly tested. I think a lot of people don't understand that the heteronormative standard of getting STI testing, where you give a blood sample and give a urine sample. The urine samples to check for gonorrhea and chlamydia. Um, Not really enough, because if you put something in your mouth, like if you suck a dick or if you put something in your butt, you got to get swabbed in your throat for gonorrhea and chlamydia, and same thing in your butt. If you put something in your butt, you could get gonorrhea, chlamydia there. So I had a guy who came to me for a second opinion, whose doctor put him on these high dose medications for what he thought was ulcerative proctitis, an inflammatory condition of the rectum. And the guy just kept getting worse, and he didn't understand why, because it should have gotten better. And then he came to me for a second opinion, and I asked him, "Well, I see you're on PrEP. Do you have unprotected sex?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't use condoms at all." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, has anybody checked your butt for gonorrhea?" And he goes, "No." So I did a swab for gonorrhea, and it was positive, and that's all he had was just gonorrhea. And you can throw all the fancy medicines in the world at gonorrhea, but it ain't going to respond unless you give it the right antibiotic. So, you know, doctors are terrible at talking about sex. Doctors are horrible at taking a sexual history. Um, they're terrible at asking, what kind of sex you have and who you have sex with. I always make sure I ask people, do you have sex with men, women, or both? And when you do have sex, are you more receptive anally? Are you a pure top anally, or do you do both? These are critical pieces of information your doctor needs to know so that we know what to check and where to check it. So, so that people get the care they need. And if you can't be open and honest with your doctor, you need to find another doctor, because you got to be able to really communicate in an honest level with your care provider so that you get everything you need.
Communication. That's
Yeah.
the key to everything that you've been talking about. People need to communicate.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
check this out, Dr. Carlton. I have to bring you back on the show, and you've got me this idea of doing like just like a whole sex education panel or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of information that you have, and
Oh yeah.
I
It's a
need you
lot.
on here multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
But this is
lot.
what I want to do. I want you to take a little time, and so you're going to be judging IML, okay?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, what do you want to see in front of you? What is your
Well,
ideal title holder?
well, I am fresh blood to this whole thing. I have never judged a contest before. I've never been to IML. I have a completely open mind, right? So I have no biases. Although I know who a few of the candidates are, I don't have personal relationships with anybody. I have no biases. And I'm going to come in that way. I'm going to come in with a completely clean slate and open mind and read every application. I'm going to listen to them interview. I'm going to make sure someone really wants to be there and they really understand what is at stake as a title holder for an entire year on an international title. I want to know what they want to be remembered for, you know. And I've done like preliminarily, I've done like preliminary talks with people, and some people know what they want to do, and some people have no clue why they're even going. At this point, you better know what you want to do and what you want to be remembered for and what your platform is. And you better have showed also that you've been out in the community doing a lot of shit already. Um, you need to show that you've been productive and you have a plan to be productive. I don't want to be one of those typical American judges that asks American-centric questions about American problems
Fair enough.
because I think that's very unfair to the European and South American folks
Mhm.
because they don't face the same shit we do.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the gender stuff is important right now, especially here and in some places in Europe, but every place has its own unique set of problems. But I think the unifying stuff is what I'm going to be looking for. Um, I want someone who's confident. I want somebody who, when they walk out in that leather, they look like that leather owes them a favor for putting that shit on today, you know? I want confidence, but not cockiness. Um, And I just think by talking to people and reading what they've done, I think I'll be able to figure it out. And the good news is, hell, I'm one of 9 judges, and the top and bottom scores out of each thing get thrown out. So if I really, 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 really like somebody, it might not mean a hill of beans, you know. But I'm looking for someone really well-rounded on everything. Someone who can speak, someone who can represent, someone who can be confident. Um, and someone who just rocks that leather.
So, thank you so much, Dr. Collins. So, this is what I want to
Mhm.
ask you. I would love to bring you back in July if you'd be open to that.
Sure, of course.
All right, cool. We're going to come back to this. I'm having more poignant questions because I think we're going to come back and I'll talk more about the pillars of sexual health and some of the other things that are going on. So we are going to go ahead, get you back here in July because there's more.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing like a little summer school special. So, okay. We are towards the end of this, Dr. Carlton.
Uh-huh.
And there's only one thing that you have to do before we end the interview.
Okay.
So I'm going to count to three, and you're going to say, if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
One, two, three.
If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
There we go. Thank you so much for doing this.
You
I'm
bet.
going to see you in a couple of like in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I arrived 2 weeks from today.
We can talk about
Yeah.
stuff while we're there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm
you're
I
not
arrived.
judging me, so I get to come and take your
That's right.
judging.
Yeah. What was it like for you?
Ooh, last year
Yeah, what was it like to be a contestant?
I was contestant number one, man. It was nerve wracking.
Dude, that's brutal. That's
It was
almost unfair.
scary. It was horrifying. I'd never been to IML before. It took a minute. Like it was hard. It was extremely hard. And I am working on my stage presence and my aesthetic as a leather person. That's what I took away from IML is just being confident in what I have to bring to the table. You were
Yeah.
really good on my interview, but I just was not. I was not prepared to be contestant number one. I don't think anybody is, but I just hope that people that have heard me go on about being contestant number one all year understand that, like, be prepared to pull number one. And if you
You
don't
never,
pull number
you
one,
never,
like, rock it and try to, I don't know. Just own it because number one will carry you far just on itself because
you're
everyone.
the first person. Yeah.
68, there's gonna be 68 contestants this year. When you pull number one, you're on the stage the longest. You're leading everything. You're the first. People are going to know who you are. They're probably going. They called me number one all week. They still call me number one after the contest and months going out. I was at some event. I was like, where was I? I think I was judging a contest in Michigan. So I was like, number one. So like and I had siblings that were jealous that they didn't get number one. I did not see it as a gift. I saw it as like, oh crap, like man, I wish I knew what to expect. And they made some changes
Yeah.
in staging and stuff. But anyways, it brought me here to in front of
Yeah.
you. Let me just tell you, my IML experience brought me a full circle. Here I'm about to hit 100 episodes of the show. I've had tons of different people from various
Yeah.
places, prominent.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I remember flying into Brownsville for Wet Oso weekend last year, about September, and the guys I were in your class, Pedro and Mr. RGV Leather.
um uh
Uh,
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah, Jesus Lopez.
He was
Jesus
number
Lopez
two.
and Pedro Coronado. Um, those two I was talking to, and they were talking about your show. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen that on Facebook. So to be on it now is really cool.
Yes, and you're going to be on it. You're going to be on it more. I have a feeling you're going to be on here a few times. Like I said, you're
Okay,
doing necessary work, and I would like to bring more sexual education to Throwing Light. To be honest with you, because
sure.
I would just like to expose. Like I told you, like people might think they know the audience of this show, but the audience of this show would
It's
shock.
diverse. Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
and there are people that might not understand this, but they're curious. And
Sure.
I'm excited about that because I think that in my mindset, I'm trying to work on that silent minority that is passive to the bad things.
Hmm.
I don't want to go too much more in racism or anything, but it's the demographic of white people that aren't racist, but they don't speak out against racism.
Sure. Yeah.
I have that kind of following, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it.
So, people aren't compassionate a lot and don't want to be compassionate to the other side whatsoever. And I totally get it. But I keep thinking about how I grew up and how people treated me. But us being under an environment, like a culture that I met, like they're good people everywhere.
I think also that I think what you're doing is great too, because if both sides stay completely separate and don't talk to each other and don't understand each other at all, then there's going to be no progress at all, and people are just going to get further and further
Yeah,
divided.
I'm
By
very
bringing people in like this, you're going to help maybe educate people about, hey, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, and these people are pretty cool, and these people are all right, you know. So I think
That's the
that's cool.
goal, that's the
Yeah,
goal, humanization. I just want to
yeah,
humanize people, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. So I thank you for being on the show. I'm looking
my
forward to
pleasure.
having you back. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Dr. Carlton Thomas, butt stuff. It's been nice
yeah.
having you on Throwing Light.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, we are out. I'm LTJ Reed. See you next time.
Bye bye.